In the summer of 2023, the city of Prince George saw a massive influx of bears within city limits. Between the months of July and September alone, the city received over 2,000 calls about black bears in people's neighborhoods. Prince George RCMP referred to this year as Bearmageddon. Scientists don't know exactly what drove this number of bears out of the woods. It's thought that a combination of wildfires and lack of food due to drought pushed them out of the forests and into people's garbage cans. Sadly, 76 bears were reported to be destroyed that summer, with sources such as the Fur Bearers organization suggesting numbers even higher than that. This is a stark contrast to the 32 bears destroyed in 2022, and in 2024, only 8. 2023 was an above average year for bear encounters in Prince George. But on average, 40 bears are destroyed in the city each year. Because of this, Prince George has been deemed BC's deadliest community for black bears. Hardly a badge to carry with honor. Today's episode is part 1 of discussing why bears might want to explore your backyard and what you can do to prevent it. We'll talk about what you should do if you encounter a bear in the wild, and how you can discourage a hungry bear from finding its next meal in your neighborhood. We'll discuss the science, and how you can get involved with uncovering the secrets hidden in bear poop. The lives of these creatures rest in the hands of our entire community. This is bear country, and it's about time we learn how to live in it. My name is Michael Bryden, and you're listening to Wilder Insights. Stay tuned. I'm out on a hike right now, in one of Prince George's many city parks. It's a gorgeous day in June, and although I'm only a few minutes from my house, on the trail I'm walking on right now, I can still see plain sign of bears. Maybe the occasional paw print, or a pile of scat, or even the scarred over claw marks on an aspen tree where a bear used to climb. It's pretty clear to see that this is bear country. Although I'm fully aware of where I am, it'd still be pretty intimidating to run into a bear out here. But thankfully, I had the opportunity of speaking with Kayla Wiens. She's the Northern BC Regional Coordinator with the BC Conservation Foundation. Here she is.
And I'm the Northern BC Regional Coordinator with the BC Conservation Foundation.
I just said that.
Of which WildSafeBC is one of our in-house programs. And I've also been a volunteer with Northern Bear Aware for about 2 years now.
I guess I missed that last part though. It's safe to say she knows a thing or two about bears. She's here to teach me about what to do in the event of a bear encounter in the wild. And to begin, let's talk about the number one safety measure you can take while venturing in bear country. Bear spray.
I like to think of bear spray kind of as fastening your seatbelt before you get into a car, essentially.
Right.
So you never go on a trail or anything like that without it. Just kind of muscle memory move kind of thing. And you always want to have it on your body, accessible, not in your backpack, because if a bear were to come at you, you're not going to pause and take your backpack off and get it out.
So when carrying bear spray, you said not in your backpack, is there a specific place in your body you should have it?
Yeah, ideally in front of you and accessible. If you go to a lot of different hiking stores or hunting stores, like Coeur Lane's in town here, you can actually buy, it's kind of like a little holster to attach ideally to your belt or even your backpack strap kind of thing. I carry mine kind of thing like a sling around me, just on my front body. You want to make sure that it's accessible, really easily accessible. So usually they'll have little Velcro tags kind of thing that you can take out. This is an important tip to remember here. When you're face to face with a bear, you may not be thinking rationally. You want to make grabbing the spray as easy as possible. And when it comes down to using it, there are a few things you need to keep in mind as well. So, for example, a lot of people don't know that you actually need to cut the little zip tie off of the bear spray can when you first buy it.
It's useless if it's on there,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
It does nothing. And then there's even a little safety clip. It's usually like yellow or orange. And just knowing to take that off kind of thing, hold your stance kind of thing. And you want to make it kind of like a fan up and down, ideally holding for like 5 seconds. You essentially want to make like a wall of spray between yourself and the bear.
Okay, so let's sum this up for anyone listening who's never used bear spray before. When you buy it, put it on a holster on your hip or your chest, easy access. Take the zip tie off, but the clip stays on.
The clip stays on until you're ready to use it. Yeah.
Perfect. And then if you burst build that wall in front of you when the bear is at a short distance from you.
Yeah.
If you see a bear and it's like 30 feet away and you spray, it's not going to do anything, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Right on. So you're out on a hiking trail. You know there's bears in the area. What can you do proactively to maybe prevent a bear encounter?
Yeah, so it's always a good idea to, if you're hiking or walking around, to be in a group or another person kind of thing. And you always want to keep talking. You don't ever want to wear headphones because you want to be always alert of your surroundings.
Totally.
So always checking out the ground and stuff like that, looking for scat or poop kind of thing. Looking if there's kind of like fresh tracks and stuff like that as well. So just really checking out your surroundings kind of thing. And then also you always want to be talking just to kind of make sure that they're aware if there is a bear in the area kind of thing. And you don't want to surprise them. Also, playing loud music isn't great either because it can kind of like cancel. You won't hear anything going on kind of thing. So you won't hear a charge or something like that potentially.
Okay, so don't bring the JBL.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Let the soundtrack to your hike be the wind and the birds singing around you. Maybe leave the Fetty Wap for when you're home. So I've got my bear spray on me right now. I knew that much beforehand. Today I've got it on my hip on my right side in a holster. But I've also got a running belt with a bear spray holster on it. 'Cause I run sometimes.
I've actually also wanted to mention if you're mountain biking or trail running, you're also at a higher risk of having a bear encounter just because there isn't a lot of noise that goes on when you're trail running or mountain biking and you're going really fast too.
Oh, okay.
So just keeping in mind that especially with those two activities to make sure that you come prepared with bear spray and that you're aware of your surroundings at all time and just making a game plan before you go out all the time. No one ever thinks that anything bad is going to happen to them. But yeah, thinking ahead is always really important.
Great. No one ever thinks that until it does, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's important to be carrying bear spray when you're out in bear country, but it's equally important to know how to use it. It's easy to tell you how to use it, but it's better to show you. There are plenty of videos on the web demonstrating how to effectively use bear spray, and I've included a link to one of these in this episode's show notes. Alongside of this, you'll find a link to WildSafeBC's website, where you can find instructions on how to use bear spray, as well as a page dedicated to training workshops, if you're interested. So now you know what preventative measures you should take to avoid a bear encounter altogether. But what should you do if you come face to face with one anyways?
So let's say, you're on a trail kind of thing and you're coming up and let's say you kind of come around a corner and you see a bear. Potentially the bear doesn't see you yet kind of thing. If the bear doesn't see you yet, just slowly back away and get out of there kind of thing. If the bear does see you, they may kind of go up on their haunches kind of thing to check you out. Bears are naturally really curious creatures, and they're usually more scared of us than we are of them as well. So if the bear does recognize you, they may just kind of stand up. In that case, just kind of put your hands up and just slowly talk to the bear as if it were a person. So say, hey bear, I'm here. Slowly back away out of the situation kind of thing. If a bear does have cubs, especially, they're usually more defensive. If a bear starts like bluff charging you, which is where they kind of run up really fast towards you kind of thing, that's kind of a tactic to be really defensive and to scare you off to make sure that you're not a threat kind of thing. In that case, if they do start bluff charging, just stand your ground and get your bear spray ready to set off if need be kind of thing.
So in terms of encounters, we talked about if you take a bear by surprise, it doesn't see you coming. There's a potential that the bear might be actually tracking you, right? Like in very, very rare instances of a predatory bear encounter.
Yeah.
what would you do in that situation?
Yeah, if a bear is tracking you, they're kind of making really intense eye contact with you and they're not stopping following you. That is the time to fight back. So you want to start really yelling at the bear, make yourself really big, start throwing like rocks and stuff like that at the bear. If you have hiking poles, kind of get them out and use them as a weapon, essentially, if the bear were to charge you.
Fight for your life.
Yeah, fight for your life. You want to make sure that the bear doesn't think that you're an easy prey, essentially. Yeah.
And I've heard perhaps if a mauling occurs, is it before the fighting? You're supposed to lay on your stomach? Lock your hands and...
Yeah, so that's more for a defensive bear attack kind of thing.
Not a predatory.
So, predatory, okay. You want to fight with all your... everything you've got to deter the bear. In a defensive bear attack, the best thing is to kind of essentially play dead kind of thing. So you always want to keep your backpack on your back to kind of protect your back. And then, what you said, kind of laying on the ground on your stomach and keeping your legs out of the wider stance, so that the bear, it's harder for them to flip you over, and you want to protect your internal organs too, kind of thing.
So when a defensive bear attacks, it's really just trying to neutralize the threat. Once it thinks it's gone, the bear will leave.
Exactly, yeah. So they're scared of you when they first see you, especially mamas with cubs. They're really scared, and they want to protect their young. So they want to make sure that you are not a threat, and you're not going to come after them again.
So that's out hiking.
Yeah.
Let's say you're going camping. You get to the campsite. What can you do at your campsite to maybe prevent attracting bears?
Yeah, so for front camping, you always want to, let's say like you have a tent or a trailer or something like that, you never want to keep any attractants in your tent or trailer. So you always want to keep them in your locked vehicle or one of those like storage units they have sometimes at like BC parks and stuff like that.
Right.
So attractants can include any type of food. If you have like a barbecue or anything like that, or a little camping stove, also include that into your car. Also things like toothpaste. Toothpaste is a really big attractant, actually. The mint scent. Things like deodorant even too and stuff like that. And pet food's a really big one as well. So you just want to keep a really clean campsite. Nothing outside overnight kind of thing. If you had like s'mores or something like that night, make sure you're packing everything out kind of thing as well. Same with your gray water. If you're doing dishes around campsite, making sure that you're not doing dishes right in camp kind of thing. Going to like a sanitary station if they have one, or just making sure that you're a fair bit of distance away from camp.
Right, because that dishwater is going to smell like the food you just had.
Exactly. Yeah. And then with backcountry camping, kind of the same thing. Just making sure that your campsite's clear and making sure that you're not too close to any like attractive areas. So when you're picking your tent pad site kind of thing, making sure that there's no like big berry bushes in the area, any signs of wildlife like scat or tracks or anything like that. Also, you don't want to be too close from any waterways, potentially with fish or anything like that. You want to make sure that you can hear an animal as well. So making sure that there's no fast waterways for that in that aspect as well. And then always keeping all of your food packed away kind of thing in either a bear safe canister or hung up in a tree if you're a bit away from camp. The idea is to make sure that the bear won't detect your food, essentially.
When it comes to stashing away your smelly things, you've got a few options you can choose from. Most commonly, in BC parks at least, you'll find a metal bear-proof bin known as a cache on your campsite. It's the same mechanism used in bear-proof garbage bins. Except in these ones, it's used to store your food and other items that may attract bears to your site. But for those backcountry campers where a bear cache is not an option, you can either store your food in a bear-proof bag away from your campsite or perform a bear hang by hanging your food in a tree in such a specific way that it's out of reach from bears. Or maybe you can choose both options. Not a bad idea if you ask me. Have you ever had a scary bear encounter?
Once, walking a dog, and I had to get really big. She was with her, it was a black bear, she was with her cub, and I had a dog that was off leash at the time. I no longer hike with dogs off leash, because that dog was not trained kind of thing, and she did bring the bear back to me. But yeah, it was a really scary situation, and it kind of taught me to kind of think ahead. Think of the worst case scenario before you go out kind of thing.
Totally.
No one likes to think about that, but the reality is we live in bear country, especially in and around Prince George, going up north and stuff like that. So if you think of it ahead of time, you can kind of set your game plan of thinking, what would I actually do? How should I actually respond? And then in that scenario, then you're not put into a situation where you're panicking and let's say you do everything wrong and you run away and get attacked or something like that. So yeah, just always think ahead kind of thing. Put the steps in before.
Prepare for the worst.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. So that actually is an interesting segue into dogs when you're out on the trail. Mm-hmm. So they can be an attractant to bears as well.
Yeah, so dogs on the trail are kind of a hot topic. Everyone likes to bring their dog out into nature. They're great companions. But keeping them on leash is really important. I know I've met some like really dog-aware dogs before, or bear-aware dogs before. But you just never know what's going to happen. And like I said before, the bear's trying to see if you're a threat. And sometimes having a dog makes you an instant threat kind of thing.
Right.
And there's a lot of instances and a lot of attacks that have happened where the dogs have run ahead of the person and then found a bear and actually ran back to their owner and brought the bear back to the owner kind of thing.
That's terrifying.
It is terrifying. Yeah. And, you know, we want to protect ourselves, but also our dogs kind of thing. And, and so you kind of want to keep your dog with you at all times kind of thing. Same goes with kids. If you're hiking with small children, you want to make sure that if you do see a bear to keep the kid in front of you, especially if they're a younger child. You don't want to ever turn your back on your kid because they could potentially run away.
Right.
So dogs any dogs that you go hiking with, same with children, you want to just always make sure that they're near you kind of thing.
Right.
Because anything that's unpredictable is dangerous in those situations.
So dogs on a leash, preferably.
Yeah.
Kids maybe not on a leash, but
not
right
on
next
a leash,
to you. Yeah.
But right next to you. If they're younger kids, kind of holding them right in front of you, actually. Right. It can seem really scary in the moment kind of thing, but you want to make sure that you put their life first kind of thing as well.
100%. In BC, there are 2 bear species you should be watching out for when recreating outdoors. The more common American black bear and the infamous grizzly bear.
Yeah, I was going to say one more thing, just kind of differentiating between grizzly bears and black bears, actually.
Great, yep.
So it's actually kind of difficult. So we like to think as black bears are more city bears kind of thing. They come into our cities and stuff like that. But their territories are very big, black bears and grizzly bears. And black bears, a lot of people will see like a reddish bear or a gold bear kind of thing. Black bears come in all different colors.
You heard that right. Not all black bears are black. Most commonly they're black. But the color of their fur is a result of the amount of melanin in their fur and in their skin. And this is a result of their genetics. Just how like you might have brown hair and your neighbor might have blonde hair, and that one kid you went to high school with had red hair, black bears appear in a variety of hair colors. They can be black, brown, cinnamon blonde, strawberry, gray, and even white. The white ones being more recognizably known as spirit bears.
So you can't really base it off of their color sometimes.
Right, yeah.
So it's actually quite hard to differentiate. Like grizzly bears, they have the traditional like teddy bear ears and the big hump on their back or in between their shoulders. And they also have longer claws for digging food. So it's kind of good to know that black bears are more commonly in trees and stuff like that. So if you do see paw prints on the ground, the black bears will have their the nails or the claws are closer to their paw pads, while the grizzly bears are further apart to just have longer nails to dig food and bury their food kind of thing.
Okay, yeah.
So it's just kind of important to know because if, you were to climb a tree to escape a bear attack, odds are a black bear can definitely climb up there with you kind of thing.
Totally.
So just not maybe making that part of your game plan initially kind of thing.
Right. I bet an adrenaline-driven grizzly would also climb a tree for you
Probably.
if it wanted to.
Yeah, it definitely can.
So there's this famous saying, I know you've heard it, if it's black, fight back, if it's brown, lie down, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not that simple?
It's not. Yeah, it depends on the bear. Again, like predatory bears are really, really rare, but they do happen. For example, like that couple that unfortunately passed in Banff, I think it was last year or the year before.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there are more frequently black bear attacks, actually, but the more lethal attacks are from grizzly bears kind of thing. So just being aware of the bear's behavior and knowing that they're also usually scared in the situation and see you as a threat, and just making sure that you get rid of that idea that you are a threat to them, kind of thing.
Right. Perfect. So just to sum up this part again, the different the different encounters could be defensive or predatory.
Yeah.
And like a bluff charge doesn't mean predatory.
It doesn't. It's usually like a warning signal, actually. So they're trying to get you out of their territory.
Predatory might look like eyes super fixated on you, maybe ears stood upright, paying attention. And, okay.
And usually following you.
So it's more about reading the bear itself rather than what species it is.
Yeah.
Bears are among nature's most fascinating creatures. Although people and bears have been interacting for thousands of years, the relationship has often been based more on fear than understanding. How bears and humans get along has a lot to do with how we respond to each other during encounters.
There are a lot of amazing resources out there about bear safety, like the video titled Staying Safe in Bear Country that you just heard a clip from. A classic training video that you might have had to watch if you ever worked in the outdoor industry. You can find a link to this full video in the show notes below. I highly encourage you to give it a watch. So now you know what to do if you run into a bear in their backyard. But what are you to do if you find them in yours? This is Nicole Button. She's the president of the Northern Bear Awareness Society, a volunteer-run organization working to reduce conflicts in neighborhoods between people and bears.
So the Northern Bear Awareness Society has been around for over 2 decades. It was started in 1998 by a group of concerned citizens. Some of them are hunters. Some people find that surprising, and conservation officers who realized that there were way too many bears being destroyed or killed by conservation officers in our community due to conflict with humans, mostly with garbage, but also with other backyard bear attractants, as we call them. And these people were amazing. They went and got a lot of funding, gaming grants and sponsorship and so on. They put together in the year 2000 a team of students, I guess they were all students, who did an education campaign in the city and created a map of bear sightings and bear conflict areas in the city. And since then, we've been more or less keeping that going over the years, sometimes more than others. But our goal is to educate our community about human-bear conflict and about coexistence with bears, primarily bears, sometimes other wildlife, and to promote tolerance of bears within our community.
Their goal is to educate. Through free presentations at schools and public events, they aim to reach the community of Prince George and teach folks about how to coexist with bears. There are a lot of angles that can be taken when approaching the topic of bears. One angle a lot of people focus on is fear. Although bears might appear to be friend-shaped, they are large, dangerous predators, capable of causing a lot of damage. But the Northern Bear Awareness Society has chosen to take a different approach. Focusing on peaceful coexistence, they hope to provide some tips that will help you lead to this. So when you're reaching out for education, what are the exact messages you're trying to get out to people?
Well, first of all, the main one, of course, is the backyard bear attractants, as we call them, or just unnatural foods that bears will eat in our community, and the importance of properly managing them so that bears can't have access to them. Because, we do have bears in our community, and that's the other main message, is that the bears aren't going to go away. They will live here, and they will come into backyards, front yards, wander the streets in areas adjacent to green space, next to the forest, of course. They're curious and smart, and they follow their noses, and they will wander through. So we want to promote that tolerance to them, but also the safety aspect that we don't want them becoming habituated to being close to people. We want them to maintain a sense of fear, like a healthy sense of fear of people.
Yeah.
And it's all interrelated with access to unnatural foods. So that's the key thing here. It's very simple actions that people can take, but aren't always top of mind.
I know it might seem obvious to us, but why don't we want bears in the city?
Well, Well, like I said, we don't mind the bears in the city, but we don't want them coming too close or lingering.
Right.
So it's true. It's a bit obvious because they are technically a large carnivore and they can be dangerous. We also know that they're very cute, and some people, like, we're not all afraid of bears. They should have a healthy fear of us. We should have a healthy fear of them. But what I like to teach people about is the two terms. One is habituated and one is food conditioned. And when a bear has both of those traits, that's when there can be a public safety issue. So I already said the word habituated. That just means that they're used to people. They're not running away. They're not scared. And that often develops after they've become food conditioned. So food conditioned is the big one. And that just means that they're used to getting a source of food from somewhere unnatural. And because they're so intelligent and because they're so curious and persistent and strong and, agile, they can get things if they try hard enough. So the very first time a bear has access to something like garbage or birdseed or something else that we leave out unintentionally, then that bear realizes maybe doesn't consciously think, oh, this is a great high calorie source of food, but it realizes that and maybe likes whatever it had, and it's going to come back and it's going to seek it out somewhere else. They always do. It's super important that we don't allow them to have any access, because that very first time it happens, it's already learning, back. Right? Yeah. It's learning that it's going to be able to find that somewhere near people, and then that it leads to them taking greater risks. So the bear has that natural fear of people, but if it has a greater desire to get at the whatever's in the garbage, it's going to take a greater risk and not run away maybe when there's somebody in the yard.
Okay.
Or, so when the bear's taking greater risks and sticking around when people are there, that brings them closer to people. And mainly there are two issues. One is that there could be a chance encounter where, say, you come out of your house, walk around the corner into your backyard, and there's a bear getting at your garbage can, and you could startle the bear, and there's that flight or fight response, and it could result in the fight response where it's, there could be a bear attack, I guess.
Yeah, it's surprised, right? It's reacting out of defense.
Yeah. Defensive kind of thing. And somebody could get injured. The other thing is that sometimes bears will actually defend their food source, right? Grizzly bears even more so, but black bears as well. I know that somebody I spoke to recently said that he came down his driveway to pull his garbage can in, and there was a large male bear there that was charging at him. Like maybe it was bluff charging. We don't know, but he did not feel safe, right? Because he said he secures his garbage all the time, but on garbage day he had to have it out, of course.
Yeah, so it's like the people put the garbage out. This is their garbage, but the bears are like, this is my meal. Yeah. So I'm going to fight for it if I want it.
Yeah, and that bear obviously, the person I spoke to, he said he didn't leave his garbage out, but the neighbors do. So the bear knows what a garbage can is, right?
Right, of course. Pack up your garbage, people. You don't want to be that neighbor. So is there no food in the forest for them? What's bringing them into the cities and wanting garbage in general?
It's true. Like usually there's lots of natural bear food. Sometimes there might have been a drought and maybe a lower supply of berries, for example. And that will be a factor in bringing more bears into the city in some years. But even when there's a lot of food, you definitely get certain bears that come looking for these foods more than others, particularly if they're the ones that are food conditioned already. They just seek it out because it's a really easy source of high calorie meals. So if you take a bird feeder full of, high oil content, rich, nutritious seeds, the bear just has to pour it into its mouth or, take it out. Yeah. Whereas picking them off of a tree would take a lot more energy, right?
Right.
Same with whatever's in some people's garbage cans. So that's one thing. It's an easy meal. The other thing is that, I already said, they will be kind of traveling around through areas adjacent to our homes, and because they're curious, they just kind of wander through. If they don't find that easy meal in our yards, they will keep going. They might, have a nap, spend a day or two there, and then keep going. If they do find garbage or pet food or something else interesting to eat, then that's when they keep coming back and they hang around for a longer time.
Right. I've heard that mother bears will remember a spot with good food and they'll teach their young to this, and they'll go year after year, and then eventually the young will learn to go. Do you find that this is a problem with neighborhoods and garbage, that you're seeing like the next generation of bears coming?
Yeah, that's very true. They do teach their cubs things, just like a lot of other animals do. So that's one of the concerns, is that if you have a sow with cubs that has been used to eating garbage, and then the cubs are accessing garbage, and then you have 2 or 3 more garbage bears. So it's super important to prevent that access.
Food. Like many of us, bears are very food motivated. And this seems to be the main reason why bears are coming into our neighborhoods. We're getting closer to some solutions here. But first, what exactly are the main attractants that brings a hungry bear to your front door? Backing up a little bit to just generalizing the attractants, what are the number one attractants in people's yards that bring bears in?
Okay. Okay, so garbage, number 1, of course.
Yeah, of course.
In the fall, we have fruit trees as number 2. Of course, that's only for from late August to maybe mid-October usually. So that's a short period of time, but it's still a very significant source of conflict. I know that the conservation officers, I've heard them say, just out of frustration of having to unfortunately shoot so many bears because of this conflict, that I've heard them say things like they wanted to cut down all the apple trees in the city. They didn't really mean it, but to some sense,
right,
all the ones that people aren't properly managing anyway. So it's the top 2. And then we have sort of secondary ones. We have birdseed is probably number 3. Then we have compost. And then pet food and barbecues are lesser attractants, but definitely still up there in the top 6.
Oh, I never thought of barbecues. I guess if you don't scrape it off properly, right? Or just smells like meat the entire time, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. All right. Now we know what's bringing bears into our community and why that isn't a good thing. Let's talk about the changes you can make to prevent unwanted bear visitors. So if we were to try to mitigate these attractants, try to prevent the bears from coming in general, what would you suggest? Let's go down the line. Let's start with the big one, and we'll start with garbage.
Okay. Well, there are a lot of tips that we can provide about garbage, and it varies. I would say ideally, people would produce less garbage, and then they could keep it in their house until garbage day. Like, keep the kitchen garbage under the sink or wherever you keep your garbage. Maybe you have a grocery bag size amount of garbage, and then on the morning of garbage day, you put it out. Ideally, right? People will recycle and maybe compost.
It may seem like an impossible task with the way things are packaged in today's world, but there are a lot of ways you can minimize the amount of garbage you produce. The biggest change you can make is to recycle. That is, if you don't already. In British Columbia, so many types of paper, cardboard, plastic, glass, and metal can be recycled. Even things like plastic drinking straws can be recycled if they're clean. Many of these items can be returned to programs like Return It, where you can exchange your recyclables for cash. In British Columbia, you already pay a container recycling fee for many of these recyclable items when you buy them, so why not return them and put that money back into your pocket? Minimizing your household waste does more than just protect bears. And this advice can be taken anywhere in the world, not just BC. The less waste we produce, and the more we reuse, the less garbage is sent to landfills, and the less we have to take from our already troubled planet. I encourage you to look up your local recycling program and check out the items that can be recycled exactly. It's more than you think. This is a topic that deserves more attention than I'm going to give it today. Maybe you'll see an episode in the future covering the waste problem that our world faces. But for now, I simply recommend recycling and reducing the amount of your personal household waste. Do it for the bears.
If that's not possible and if it smells bad, my favorite thing to tell people is that they can take smelly things like meat scraps, chicken bones, fish, stuff like that, put it in a bag, like maybe just reuse a plastic bag, like a bread bag or frozen fruit bag or something, put it in your freezer until garbage day. Make sure you label it though, because you don't want to accidentally defrost something for dinner. That's bad. But yeah, you just, remember to look for it after a while. Many things, like, so if you have to put garbage out in the garbage can before garbage day, then you're going to have to secure the can. So lots of people have caught on to the idea of using a ratchet strap, and you can get them for pretty inexpensively at some stores, and it does work pretty well. We have promoted that at times, either one or two different ratchet straps on it, and the bears will have a hard time opening the can. If they're persistent, though, they can still open it.
Right.
They can often pry the end or the edge of the lid open, and then as they're doing that or otherwise trying to open it, they will damage the cart. So there are mixed reviews about using ratchet straps. Also, if the bears can't get into the can, they're going to drag it away to work on it. They like to take it somewhere else, a little more private, I guess. And
there goes your can.
Yeah. So sometimes people have to go down a ravine or into someone else's yard to get it.
Yeah. I've definitely seen a garbage bag dragged across a neighborhood and people wondering where it went.
Yeah, there always seems to be somebody else's garbage in people's yards.
Exactly, yeah. Well, what about fruit trees?
Okay, so that's actually kind of an exciting one, because we've teamed up with some other organizations, other nonprofits in the last year or so. Those groups would be Everyone at the Table and REAPS, which is the Recycling and Environmental Action Planning Society. And we are putting on an event called the Fall Fruit Fest. And we did it last year. We're doing it again. And at this point, it's not quite a festival. That's something we talked about would be fun later. But what it really is like a public education campaign in itself, to encourage people to pick their fruit and use it, and also to help them find ways to make use of it. Like different ways that we can use our own fruit, and also ways we can give it to others, and different places they can take it for use instead of wasting it.
Right. And that creates a sense of community in a way, right? I think you're creating food, you're giving food, and brings people closer together at the same time.
Yeah. Because, that's exactly it. And the main thing about it is that we want people to use their fruit, but we are well aware that a lot of people don't have time to process fruit, much less pick it. They can pick it, but then, canning things takes a couple days sometimes. So we have a group called the Canning Circle who will, they'll can things and then they give it to local charities. And we'll put on some workshops. They did a canning and juicing workshop, and also a fruit leather making workshop.
That's amazing.
Here on the campus. Because what happens with fruit trees is that, say you're really excited about food security and you want to grow your own food, and that is wonderful. I completely support that. But what happens is that after a few years, it's a lot of fruit. And maybe the person who originally planted it is okay with that, and they're prepared to do it. But then maybe they move and somebody else buys the property or moves or is a renter or whatever. They can't do it, or they don't want to do it.
It's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah. And when a tree is, 20 years old or something, it can be quite massive. And if people don't prune their trees, there's a lot of fruit produced.
What kind of fruit is growing, actually? Sorry, I should have asked earlier.
Oh, yeah. Well, in Prince George, we're a bit limited by our climate. So mostly it's apples. It's different kinds of apples. You get pretty good big ones sometimes. And then crab apples. Okay. Which are small. And they're really good, different things you can do with them. So beautiful, like pink crab apple jelly people make. Yeah. And things like that.
Well, that sounds great.
Also, I guess the only other thing really is like pin cherries. Some people have small cherries.
I've heard in the past you've suggested taking your fruits to like hobby wineries as well, and they can make wine out of it for you.
Yeah. So a lot of the ways, so when you're using apples, people think, oh yeah, we'll make pie, but you need like 5 apples or 10 apples, right?
Right.
So if you want to use a lot of apples, a lot of them involve alcohol. So you can, absolutely take it to Hobby Brews, and they're affiliated with the winery. So they actually will take it there and they'll juice it and then bring it back to Hobby Brews. And you just come in and you sprinkle the yeast on, and then they ferment it and you have wine or cider. Really easy. Or you can drop it off at the winery if you don't want to make anything yourself.
Right. Sign me up. That sounds amazing. Are there fruit picking up programs or fruit picking programs that people can volunteer to join?
Yeah, there is. So that's through the Fall Fruit Fest.
Oh, right.
It's sort of an organization that called the Gleaning Abundance Program that we've formed with everyone at the table and Reaps and multiple other partners. So volunteers can sign up. There's a form online and the website of the Everyone at the Table's website. We'll probably have a link to it on our website too, or you can just contact us directly and we'll get you on the list if you want to go pick apples for other people. Or if you need a tree to get picked, you can also sign up. We have a limited number of volunteers, though, usually, even if we're able to get more volunteers. So we really encourage people to pick their own fruit, and then we have different places where they can take it.
Okay. Pick up your garbage. Got it. Pick your fruit trees. Check. These seem like obvious food sources for bears. This is the stuff we always hear about. But what about the small things that might fly under your radar? Stuff like pet food. It's not uncommon for folks to have food bowls outside for their pets. If it's tasty for your dog, it's most definitely tasty for a bear. Best practice would be to just feed your furry friends indoors. But it's not just our pets. I don't know about you, but I like to feed the birds outside as well. But depending on your property, this might not be the best idea. Let's see what Nicole suggests about our bird feeders.
Well, our main suggestion, honestly, is to just not put bird feeders out. If you know that you don't have bears in your neighborhood, that's okay. Although in 2023, everybody had a bear in their neighborhood. If you're not sure if your neighborhood is like a high bear use area, then you can contact Northern Bear Awareness Society and we can help you sort that out because we're pretty familiar with it. We have maps of where all the bears are. Where the bears are reported, right? Right. So don't feed birds. There are different things you can do instead. You can have a bird bath, just out in the middle of the yard where birds feel safe from predators, and just change the water every day. You'll be surprised at how many birds you'll see, and it's actually kind of fun to watch. You can plant different trees and flowers. Some people say like there are really innovative ways that people have come up with to try and have a bird feeder that is safe and secure away from bears and other wildlife. But I mean, I've seen some pictures and videos of bears getting at these bird feeders because they're super smart, super curious, innovative.
I've seen a video of a black bear like monkeying across a clothesline for like 20 feet just trying to get to a bird feeder.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. Like they have a lot of spare time to do it.
They're not going to work every day.
Yeah.
Let's stop right there for now. Thank you, Nicole and the Northern Bear Awareness Society, for teaching me so much about bears in our backyards and what we can do to prevent these interactions. And thank you, Kayla, for teaching me about what to do in case of a bear encounter in the wild. As I mentioned in the beginning, this episode is part 1 of 2 of our Urban Bears series. Tune into the next episode to hear the rest of my conversation with Nicole and see what you can do to get involved. We'll also touch on the science of urban bears, their health, and a local Prince George study determining what poop can tell us about bears in our city. I want to thank the Seafer radio station, located in Prince George, BC, for providing me with the equipment necessary to record this podcast. And I also want to say thank you to the band Funeral Culture for providing me with the song you're listening to right now. You can find links to my sources and any videos I mention in this episode in the show notes below. Be sure to check those out. And thank you to you for listening to this episode and any other episode you might have checked out already. This podcast has changed so much since the beginning just a few months ago, and I apologize for anyone who's gotten used to the consistent uploading schedule. You might have noticed, it's no longer consistent, and I'm sorry about that. The formatting of this show is constantly evolving, and I'm experimenting with what style I want to try. So I appreciate your patience, and once again, I appreciate you listening. Want to become a guest on the show? Know somebody you think should be a guest on the show? Or have a conservation story of your own you'd like to share? Email wilderinsightspodcast@gmail.com or DM me on Instagram at wilderinsightspod. Tune in next month for part 2. See ya.